Yeah, it's Friday, the 11th of September 2020, and this is the Friday night preview show live on the Seasiders podcast. In tonight's show, we'll be looking ahead to Blackpool's league opener against newly promoted Plymouth Argyle. We'll also be speaking to Plymouth fan Josh Pope about their predictions or their promotion, their pre-season, and where he sees the Green Army finishing this campaign. And we'll also be looking back at players and managers who have been at both clubs. I'm Sam Fielding, and this is a Seasiders podcast Friday night preview show. Yes, good evening and welcome to the Seasiders podcast, the second live Friday night preview show. And thank you so much for 30 people in the stream already. Let's hope it's another good one with minus the glitches from last week. But I've gave you an intro. We have got a special guest, 12 angry men. No, it's not 12 individual angry men. It's Tam, who goes on the A View from Tower message board, also known as Tim Fielding. Tim, great to have you with us this evening.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
Yeah, the first ever one, just me and you. I think it's the first ever one on the Seasiders podcast. So no family arguments this evening. But again, anyone listening, we do want to get comments in. So make sure that you leave them and we'll get them on the screen when we can. But obviously, it's time for the Sky Bet League One season to start. It's a 642-mile round journey for Neil Critchley and his side as they look to kickstart the season with 3 points. Tim, I guess it's an ideal game for Blackpool, is it?
I don't know, really. It's one of those, it's a long trip. It's one of the few grounds I've never actually been to. And sod's law, this year was the one I was determined to make the effort. And I'm sure I would have been there tomorrow had it not been for the situation we're all in. I think it's got its advantages. I think the fact that you're going to Plymouth and there's no fans there, I think they get quite well supported, don't they? They've just been promoted, so I think probably playing them in a slightly more sterile atmosphere will probably suit Blackpool. I think, but not the easiest of opening games. That's the flip side of it.
You touched on there about kind of home advantage of fans. They would have had 16,000 on for this game. Do you see that as an advantage for Blackpool going to this game, that there won't be any home fans to kind of get off their shoulders, so to speak?
I think it's going to be something we see all season. I think that there's always certain teams, isn't there, whose home record, in fact, most teams' home record is slightly better than the away, and there's a number of reasons for that. One of it is familiarity of the pitch and your surroundings, and the other is sometimes those fans, as ours fans have done in many a game, have just really encouraged you when you needed that bit of extra to try and get to carve out a result. And like you say, I think Plymouth are a well-supported team anyway. It's their first game back. They've got a newish anyway manager who clearly knows what he's doing, and they have but for the fact they've had a 6-month layoff, they have that momentum, and I think to play them and get in this scenario probably is better than playing in front of 16,000. I think that can only be to our advantage.
Yeah, certainly can. You spoke there about momentum. We've seen sides come up from League Two. Lincoln do really well. Would that be a worry for Neil Critchley, that they have to start fast, they have to high press this new team in the division to go and get 3 points?
Yeah, they've got more of a settled team than us. Ours is very much it's pretty much a new team, isn't it? Even when you look at the players who were playing from last season, Kai wasn't playing towards probably for the whole of the second half of the season, really. And then you're looking around the team beyond that, unless Virtue's playing, we're really what have we got? We've got Turton and Maxwell, who was here for the last few months. So Husband, I think he's a doubt, isn't he? So I think they've got a more settled side. They've been used to playing together, and I think we're going to have to show our quality. I think because they will have probably a little bit more about them in relation to having played probably 30, 40 games together.
Yeah, we're going to have go into an interview here, and Neil Critchley spoke to the Blackpool media team this week about Plymouth, and he spoke about their opposition and also about the season ahead. So we'll listen to what Neil Critchley had to say. We're back in 2 minutes.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Can't wait. Yeah, seems a very, very long time ago since we played a league game. Long trip and a tough game to start with away from home against a team that's been promoted. But feel as though we're ready. We've had a good pre-season. Feel although a sense that in the mood amongst the squad is that they're ready to play and we're ready to go. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what should be a really good game on Saturday.
What are you expecting from Plymouth on Saturday?
Well, any team that gets promoted and is used to having success and winning games are dangerous to play against. They have a clear way of playing. They've got momentum from last season. Had a few changes in their squad, but don't seem to have changed the way that they want to play. And they're dangerous. They got some very good players, very good attacking players, can score goals. So we have to be really mindful of that. But we feel as though if we can go and stamp our authority on them, then we'll be a really good game.
Do you think a positive result in the first league game can then spur the team on for the next few league games going forward?
I think anyone would say, any coach would say they want to get off to a good start. I think it builds belief and confidence within the group. It helps to sort of cement the work and the messages that you've been giving the players. I feel as though that's been building during pre-season, so we've got that to continue. There's 46 league games, I think. It's not the be all and end all on Saturday, but it's an important game. The next game's always the biggest game, and for us it's Plymouth away on Saturday.
And lastly, a couple of niggles in camp lately with a few players out. What are your injury concerns ahead of the game?
No, we've been good. I think we've managed the players well during pre-season in terms of fitness, minutes. We've had a couple missing, sometimes through precaution. We've not wanted to take a risk on people, but we've got pretty much a fully fit squad, which will provide good competition and a bit of a headache for me.
Yeah, that was Blackpool head coach Neil Critchley speaking there, Tim. And a trip down to Devon, it's not the easiest, or it's not the shortest journey, shall we say, down there. But will this be a game that Neil Critchley just wants to get 3 points and come back, knowing that he's made the longest trip of the season?
Maybe. I think he spoke there, didn't he, about momentum, and he spoke about a good start breeding confidence. And I think the important thing for him will be for his team to play well, to be playing to the system that he wants to play. And I think whether we win, lose or draw, I always get the impression with him that that's what's important, because I think the system and the way that he will want us to play football will in the end bear results. Whether, you're never guaranteed in any game of football what the outcome's going to be. And I think we all want 3 points tomorrow, and it'll be fantastic if come 5 o'clock we're all celebrating that. But I don't think it's the be all end all tomorrow. I think long trip. I'm sure that, I don't know when they went down, whether it was today or yesterday, but they'll go down. They'll be well prepared, and I think the one thing that comes out to me from Critch's interviews is he's very measured, he's very quiet. And I think we've seen this amongst the fan base so far. He instills confidence in you, and I think we're all, I'm very, very confident that we've got the right man at the helm, and I'm very, very confident that Blackpool are going to have a successful season, and I'm sure that we'll get off to a good start. I hope we do, but if we don't, I'm not going to start getting too concerned, because the long-term plan is clearly there and it will work.
From what we've seen in pre-season with the games against Everton and Liverpool, noticeably, is how quick of a start that Blackpool do make. What we have seen maybe in the second half of games is that they seem to struggle a little bit. That quick start needs to happen on Saturday, because new boys coming up to the division, they need to stamp their authority straight away, Blackpool, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all be ecstatic if we get the starts that we had against Everton and Liverpool. And I think we may go out like that. I think that's his philosophy. We've got some great pace and skill in that top 3 positions. And I'm sure we're going to try and exploit that. And, if we can get a 1 or 2 or even 3-0 lead in the first half, I would say with some certainty that we're not going to be facing the class of opposition that we faced when we find ourselves then clawed back against Everton. And then secondly, I think you can distinguish Liverpool anyway on the basis that there was a wholesale changes at half time, and quite clearly their second 11 is immeasurably better than ours, and that second 11 also included a few players who'd only been here for a matter of days. So I don't really class Liverpool as us tiring. It's more a case of just playing a team that are at a completely different level. But how encouraging was that first half last Saturday? I mean, it was fantastic to see. And if we see something like that tomorrow, I'm very, very confident that we're going to come away with the 3 points.
You talked there about confidence in the manager. Tangerine Babe 1 said, "I've not been as confident in a manager since Ian Holloway." Is that something you can maybe relate to, or do you just think he's got this philosophy that he knows how to play? He's going to go out there, and if it works, it works. If not, they'll come back again next week even stronger.
I think actually, bearing in mind the stage Critch is at in his career with us, and I think I've got more confidence in him than I had in Ian Holloway. Because, hindsight, I think when Holloway came in, we were all quite happy. But I don't think we felt that what ultimately happened was going to happen. Here, I think, you can see his pedigree. You can see what he's trying to do. You can see his background, the backroom staff. And he's got an owner who's going to support him. Mm-hmm. So for all those reasons, I've got more confidence, if anything, than I did at Holloway in 2009 when he joined us.
Well, we're going to have a listen to Ryan Lowe, the Plymouth Argyle manager, and here's what he had to say about Blackpool this weekend.
Expecting a good game, good team, good manager, great players. It's a big test, but ultimately it's one we're thriving on because we feel we've got the same. So it's a good matchup. But we've got to make sure we respect them, but definitely not fear them, because we're going into this league now where we feel we've got the players to adapt to it. We feel the teams we've played in League One, we've pit our wits against over the years, over last season, and we feel we'll be okay. But ultimately we can't disrespect Blackpool because they've got some good, fantastic players. They play the right way, and it's an exciting game we're looking forward to.
How excited are you with the squad you've put together over the summer?
Very excited. I think for me, a lot of people keep telling me in the football industry that we've done well to keep the nucleus of the squad, because they know the style of play we want, what we done last season, how we done it, and adding a little bit more quality, well, if not a lot of quality to it, obviously bodes well and helps. But in terms of looking forward to it with the squad of players we've got and the ones we've brought in, but listen, we're going to have ups and downs. Let's not, make no bones about it. It's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, but we're going to enjoy a lot of it, hopefully more than not. And it's one we're really looking forward to.
What do you think the biggest differences will be for the players who played in League 2 last season, the step up to League 1? What are the main differences?
Well, I think we just have to be a little bit more clever and cute. Our passing range, when to pass, when not to pass. You've got to pass the right times. You can't give too many mistakes away because you do get punished the higher you go. But a lot of our lads have played at this level, and a lot have played above the levels. So they do know, they understand. And it's about us being a little bit more resolute in everything we do. And picking them right moments. Last season was, I felt we could go at any opportunity to try and score, and we did. I think this season we've got to pick our moments and be a bit clever, which we are, and we're going to, because that's the work we've been doing.
Yeah, that was Ryan Lowe there speaking ahead of Saturday's clash, and his manager went there last season after the awful events at Bury Football Club, and he's done a fantastic job down there, and like Critchley, he'll want a quick start, won't he, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, he comes across as a very articulate and an impressive manager. To be fair, as you touched upon, he took over at Bury, got them promoted out of Div 2 into Division 1, and obviously that his team was then ripped apart by what happened. I think I don't know how many of the viewers know, but there's 5 of the Bury squad down there with him. So I think he's kept the nucleus of that team together and imposed it upon Plymouth, and obviously had the same success as he had the previous year. So he's got back-to-back promotions, hasn't he? So he's from what I can gather as well, he's very gung ho in the way he plays his football, very attacking. I know we, as Blackpool fans, we all had interest in how Ryan was doing down there last season, and you know, from the goals I saw scored, it seemed to be a very fast-flowing attacking football. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game.
Obviously, you spoke there about back-to-back, say, promotions from League Two. In the prediction video that yourself, Nick, Matt, and John did, you put Plymouth finishing 12th in Sky Bet League One. Do you think that would be a good season for them, knowing that they've just been promoted, or potentially could they go further?
I think they could. I mean, I went 12th. I think that would be a successful season from their perspective. I looked at them and thought, they're a good side. They've recruited, but I don't think they're going to have maybe just enough to push into those playoff spots. I think most teams that come up, unless you're something exceptional, you always tend to have a consolidation year, don't you? And I think that's probably going to be the situation with Plymouth. Interestingly, I watched an interview with Frank Newble, who's one of the new players, isn't he? Who just joined them and very experienced. But he said when he was asked about what he felt about their prospects this year, he said we'll win more than we lose, and I think they just about might do that. But I think that'll be about it. I think they'll lose some. I think they will maybe struggle a little bit sometimes away from home. But one thing that Plymouth always tended to have actually was a really decent away following that would come up. Particularly into Blackpool, I remember the season before last, they brought a fair few up. They've not got that, and so I think they'll lose a few, but I think they'll also be taking points off people as well.
Well, early today, I managed to speak to a Plymouth fan called Josh Pope about various things. And what we've done this time round is cut the interviews down to 2-3 minute segments, see how it works, and we'll look how it goes forward. But here's what Josh had to say about the promotion to League One. Automatic promotion last season. Was it one that the fans expected?
Yeah, to an extent. It's certainly one that I think lots of people had hoped for. Something that I think people had hoped would happen. When Ryan Lowe came in, we went out and appointed a manager from another club, which isn't something that Argyle do very often. Isn't something Argyle have done in a very long time, in fact. Brought in a lot of players, his own players, so he very much last season looked like Berry Mark II, with a couple of exceptions, and just a few new players brought in as well. It was very different from the side that went down from League One. A lot of changes. Obviously lost Graham Carey and Ruben Lamiras, both of whom have been playing top flight European football now in Portugal and Bulgaria. So they've been off doing very, very well. So the team changed a lot, and for a period of time, it didn't look like we were going to go up. I think we were 14th around November, and it was a good run of fixtures after New Year's Day. That we really picked up, and then in the week before the pandemic happened, overtook Exeter on points per game, which obviously meant they had to get into the playoffs, and we went up in third. I think with the momentum that we had and the way that we were starting to play, I think we were looking good to go up anyway. Obviously can't speak too soon, and I'm sure there would have been changes to the table had it carried out, but no, I think it definitely felt like we were getting on the way to a promotion season when it stopped. So.
We'll come on, obviously, talking about the game at the weekend between Plymouth and Blackpool. But looking at Plymouth's off-season, do you think Ryan Lowe's brought in the right players to compete at League One level?
Yeah, I'm actually really, really pleased with how we've handled it. Not just, I think I would have been happy with how we've handled it generally, let alone the fact that we've signed like we have in a pandemic. So brought in some good players. Obviously, you'll be familiar with Ryan Hardy. Who's done brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly at Argyle. And I think as someone who didn't know a lot about him before he came down, and has only really followed him in the last sort of year or so, can't fathom why you would let him go on loan to another club in the league, to be honest. But I guess not everyone fits every club. Other players that we've brought in, I guess the big talking point really is George Cooper coming back, a player that Argyle have paid a fee for. But was absolutely outstanding last season. Didn't win player of the season. I think that went to Sarcevic. But for me personally, for what he brought to the team, was our best player last season. And what you'd expect to see from him to play at left wing back for Argyle. and the ball delivery on his crossing is absolutely unbelievable. He's the best crosser of the ball I've seen at Football League level. So he gets so many assists just by crossing the ball into the box, and he'll link up with Mayer on the left-hand side. So it'll be a very, very deadly left-hand side for Argyle, one that'll be hard to handle. But yeah, I think the squad's in really good shape. It's got a bit of variation. It's well covered everywhere. There's maybe a couple areas that I'm looking at and thinking I'm not convinced about them. But on the whole, given everything that's happened, can't fault what they've done, to be honest, and the effort and the money that they've put behind it as well, the money that the owners put behind it to get Argyle in this situation, because I don't think the squad should be going down.
Yeah, that was Josh Pope there, Plymouth Argyle fan, just speaking to me today ahead of the opener between Plymouth and Blackpool. And Josh was speaking there, Tim, about Ryan Hardy going back to Plymouth. Is that one, say, transfer that you're a bit surprised about, or?
Maybe not. The reason I say maybe not isn't to do with his abilities. I think he actually enjoyed it down there so much. I think he wanted to be there. And I mentioned this on the podcast during the week, that perhaps Critchley thought, if he doesn't want to be here and he's not going to be guaranteed a start, maybe it's best to let him have 12 months out there and see where that takes him. So yeah, I hear what the Plymouth fans said about loaning players to teams in another division. But I think the flip side of that is that I think it will only be for the long-term benefit of Ryan Hardy's career, and good luck to him. We'll keep an eye on him. I always look out for him scoring and watching his goals, and as long as he can't score against us, and that's the important thing.
Again, that is obviously, you don't want teams to go out on loan and score against your own team, and we'll come into one of those players who played for both later on. But from what Josh was saying there, that they have plenty of attacking options, and again, that's something that all managers want, and it's going to be a test for our defenders.
It is, and interesting thing when I was just doing a bit of my research this afternoon was, of course, they've got Dom Telford down there, who started his career with us, played during a very difficult period, I think, in our last year in the Championship, and was able to get quite a few games under his belt as a result. And he ended up going off to Stoke, very highly rated at the time. So it's nice to see him. He's playing at a decent level on a regular basis. And also Will Aimson, I noticed as well, is there. So there's a bit of interest in Green for Blackpool fans as well tomorrow, I think, and just sort of, I suspect those two will probably start. So yeah,
definitely. We'll come on to talk about players and manager who've been at both clubs. A feature will continue throughout the season. But looking back at kind of the meetings between the two sides, and if people are listening, if you've got any memories of going down to Plymouth or any game between them, do let us know and we'll get them on the screen. But the teams have faced each other 52 times. Blackpool have won 21 of those encounters, with Plymouth winning 16. And there's been 15 draws in league meetings. Surely not this time round. Can't be, can it?
No. Well, if there is, it'll be a score draw, not a no score draw, won't it?
It certainly will be. But looking at the last meeting that the two sides, when the two sides last met, was March 2019 on the Fylde Coast. It finished 2-2 with Plymouth going 2 goals ahead, and the players played for both. Ryan Edwards scored the second in the 73rd minute of the game. But Blackpool managed to score 2 goals in 6 minutes to salvage a point. Mark Bowler and Curtis Tilt were on the score sheet for Poole that afternoon. And in the promotion season, a huge victory for Blackpool. Definitely in the second meeting at Home Park. I think Charlie Adam and Stephen Dobby scored that evening. And again, when you're in March and you need to ground a result, going to Plymouth, vital 3 points to Blackpool that season, especially when you look at when we were so close to playoffs at that point.
Yeah, I can't remember the goals from the game, but I remember how important a result that was. I think that was one of the first times that I think we all as Blackpool fans thought we could actually do it. And when you're going down there and getting 3 points in a difficult game, I think that put us in or around the top 6 perhaps for the first time. I'm sure somebody will correct me, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I also remember that the Tilt goal, of course, from the season before last was the overhead kick, wasn't it? Or the sort of half
Yeah.
a bicycle kick, if I remember rightly. It was an absolutely tremendous goal, and I think it was one of those about during the period that the interim board was in. I think we had about 5 games where we rescued a point or got a win in the last minute or in injury time, and it sort of sticks in the mind that the mad celebrations when he scored. Some good memories of that.
It's good that kind of the main guy at Seaside's podcast, John, is listening to the show. He said he won £350 at Plymouth away when we beat them 2-0 with Chaz scoring the first goal, with being the first goal scorer and correct score. So good day for Blackpool away all around, and also for John as well. And we've also got another comment here from Gary Ford. He's been to Plymouth 3 times, lost twice, both on a Tuesday night. What a long trek that is. One in the mid-90s, 2-0 or 2-1. One time came back at 6 a.m. straight into work. That's commitment, that, isn't it?
It is. I think my worst one is I once got up at 3 a.m. to go to Swansea for an 11 o'clock kickoff. I think that was my biggest case of dedication, I think.
Well, Gary, hopefully you're not to that one this season, maybe next year, if Blackpool are not promoted. But looking at other games, the highest win for Blackpool against Plymouth was a 5-2 victory in 1995. Tony Ellis scored with Andy Watson and Mickey Mellon bagging a brace on the far coast. Were you at that game? Do you remember?
No, I wasn't, because there was. Did you say it was an away game or a home game?
Home game, I believe.
Oh, home game. I've been there. I honestly can't remember the game specifically, but that would have been it was that great team we had that really should have gone up into the what's now the Championship, and we ended up having this disastrous run in the last 10 games and hardly picked a point up and just missed out to Oxford. And it was we had the playoff heartache as well, of course, which. You won't remember, and I managed to miss because I was on holiday. So yeah, it was a great team that, and until we got to the situation where Valeri came in and brought some money in, and we started buying the players that saw us go up into the Championship, and then beyond that into the Premier League. That was the best team probably that I watched, I think, because they played some great football.
We're going to move on to another topic now. Key players for Plymouth. They've brought in a number of players this season. They've lost some key players. One for me that stands out is Anthony Sarcevic, former Fleetwood player, but also now at Bolton Wanderers with Ian Evatt. But like I said, they brought in some players, and one player that you've done a bit of research on is Frank Newble. Kind of a decent goal scoring record, should we say, but I've looked at some of the things. He had 16 or 17 clubs in his career, and he's only 28 years old. It's a mad stat, that.
Incredible, isn't it? I mean, he's also seems to have been around forever, doesn't he? I mean, I think he obviously was. I mean, a lot of those were loan clubs. I think when he was at one of his West Ham, was it? Yeah, I think he's been at Ipswich and Coventry. And then he's come down perhaps a little bit with Newport and Colchester, but he's very experienced, and he's a bit of a unit as well. Looking at him and listening to what he had to say today, I think he's been a bit frustrated that a few managers have played him out on the wing, and I think he's gone to Plymouth because he wants to play right down the middle, and we're going to have to get to grips with him, I think, because I think. Handful, and he looks like he's got I don't know how fast he is, but he looks the type of player who will have a turn of pace, and we're going to have to get tight on him and give him no space whatsoever for me.
Yeah, I was looking at again over 300 appearances for clubs, just only the 50 goals. It's not a bad ratio, but again with Ryan Hardy out the side, it's going to have to one that Blackpool's defenders have to watch. But going back to another part of the interview with Josh Pope, he spoke about players to watch. So we'll listen to that for the next 2 minutes. Just for Blackpool fans who are watching this, who's kind of the one player that you think that they should look out for on Saturday?
I think from a ability perspective, Danny Mayer is the obvious choice. Playing sort of more centrally in this Ryan Lowe system than he did earlier in his career, like he did for Bury, sort of playing as a central midfielder on the left-hand side. Brilliant feet, great driving with the ball. Links up really well with George Cooper, so he'll be a threat because those two find each other really well. When you go to sort of mark one out the game, you give loads of space to the other. So it's a difficult duo to handle. Elsewhere on the pitch, I would just say just keep out an eye on. I mean, just because he came through the youth system, I'm massively inclined to Luke Jeffcott. But with his goal scoring, you'll be able to see sort of his movement in the box and how he looks to score goals.
And finally, from me, looking ahead to the 2021 season, feels strange saying that actually. But what are your hopes and expectations for Plymouth? Like I said, is it just to avoid relegation, or do you think you can really push up the league table?
My instinct says we are going to finish around about mid-table somewhere. I think there's like I said earlier, there's a few not problem areas yet. It's hard to be a problem area given we've not played any games. I think I'm slightly concerned about the standard of some of the centre backs, and I wonder if that will be a problem as the season moves forward. I would like us to be hitting mid-table, so around about 12th would be happy. I think the squad is capable of going a bit further than that, and if it works and it clicks, and some of these players do play as well as they're capable of, I think that you could be looking at a playoff challenge.
Yeah, that was Josh Pope there speaking. So huge thanks to Josh for speaking to us. If you're listening as well, welcome. Sorry, I'm getting some interference here. I'm just looking at a new feature, which is players and manager who've been at both sides. We spoke about Ryan Hardy before, obviously joining Blackpool in 2019. Only featured 12 times for Blackpool before heading out on loan, 7 in 13 for him. But I want to start off with a man who is probably considered a legend. Some people I know have different opinions, but it's Ian Holloway. Managed Plymouth just for one season between 2006 and 2007. 71 games and just under a 40% win ratio. Obviously left for Leicester before he had a year out and joining Blackpool for 3 years. Again, 161 games at a 38.5 win ratio. Just what a good job Ian Holloway did for Blackpool.
Yeah, I mean, I think for both clubs, to be fair, I think when I've heard of various interviews that Holloway's done, I think he has spoken about, with hindsight, he thinks he should never have left Plymouth at that point. I think Leicester came with the big money, didn't they, and probably persuaded him to try his hand with them. But he looked like he was building something at Plymouth, and he'd got the town behind him, and there was a real buzz, and he gave that up for Leicester. I mean, in the end, it was to our advantage, of course, because it didn't work out at Leicester, and obviously we know what happened after that. So I think probably Plymouth fans might look back and think, maybe we could have had what Blackpool had for that 2 or 3 years, because if I remember at the time, Plymouth were in the Championship, or most certainly they ended up in the Championship not long afterwards. So he was, he's a mercurial talent, wasn't he, on a managerial level, for getting the best out of players and for getting the town and the fans really, really behind what he was trying to achieve. So, yeah, I mean, I know it's primarily a player section, this, but I think it's right and proper that we started with making reference to Ollie's contribution to both sides.
Yeah, I've had a few comments in, and John's busy being a keyboard warrior this evening. But John has said Marcel Seep, can't forget him. And again, a player, after doing some research, I eventually found him, 38 years old now, played for Plymouth for 5 years before joining Blackpool on loan in the promotion season. And I believe he scored in his debut, and I think it was against Plymouth. 2 goals in 7 games he scored, and I think they won 2-0. David Vaughan got the other goal. Someone will probably correct me anyway. But again, Marcel Seep, a player who obviously played his part in the promotion season. Dom Telfer we touched on before. Kelvin Miller, obviously right back, helped Blackpool win promotion. I think he did the same with Plymouth as well. But one player that me and you spoke about yesterday when we were doing a bit of research was Scott Taylor. I didn't think he played for Plymouth, but he did. Played for them for 2 years between 2004 and 2006. But Scott Taylor, great player for Blackpool, and his goal record, should I say, 43 and 116 isn't bad.
No, I mean Scott is what was one of the best goal scorers I think Blackpool have had. He was just a natural, and we were gutted when he left. We really were, and in some respects, I mean he could have been part of what happened at Blackpool, because I think he would have been good enough to stay with the team and develop with the side as well. So perhaps I think he may look back and think I perhaps made the wrong move there. It seemed a strange one to me at the time, but yeah, what a player, and really felt he could have done a little bit more for us. But yeah, it was in the back of my locker that he played for Plymouth as well, and obviously we checked it and it was correct.
Well, I'm going to put a comment up from Gary Ford here, and I'll let you take on, because in this comment he has mentioned some players that you've told me about, and you have a story about one of those. I'll let you tell it.
Yeah, Russell. Well, those of a certain vintage, to use the expression, will no doubt remember. I think it was 1985. I think it might have been the 85-86 season, so it could have been 86. But we were playing Bolton in the what's LDV or it's all its various guises, and we got to the Northern Final against Bolton, and it was a home and away fixture, and I think we went to Bolton first, if I remember rightly. But in those days, they still played at the old Burnham Park, which was near the train station. A massive old stadium. I mean, it still held 30,000 odd then, I think, at that stage. But they'd halved the size of there's a bigger open terrace, and they'd halved the size of it by selling it to a supermarket. So you had this bizarre scenario of a football stadium with a supermarket sticking right into the ground. It was really weird. And I think you can still see this footage on YouTube somewhere, because Russell passed away a few years ago, and I think the footage came up. And but he was playing midfield for us, and we got a pen. Goes to take the pen, and he launches it over the bar. And I've never seen a ball go as high from a pen, and it hit the supermarket and came back into the ground. It was one of the worst penalties you'll ever see. And if we'd scored that penalty, we'd have got to Wembley. And at that time, it was most certainly before we did anything in the playoffs. I think it was just before the playoffs started, I think. And at the time, I was gutted because, I'd never seen Blackpool play at Wembley. I never had any aspirations of seeing us play at Wembley other than in something like that cup. And we went out on that. That goal was the difference between us getting, or not non-goal, was the difference between us getting to Wembley and not. So, but Russell Coughlin will always be remembered for that penalty, even though he was quite a good player for us. He played up front a bit with Andy Garner, and then latterly played in a sort of attacking midfield role. He was quite a stocky playmaker, effectively. And so I've quite some fond memories of him, watching him play, because he was good to watch.
It's good that you're remembered for kicking the ball against the supermarket, isn't it? Proper Sunday League story there. But going back to kind of some of the comments that have come in, we've had Rob Walker say David Fox and David Norris, two midfielders there. And David Fox was at Blackpool for a while. I think he played just under 100 games in 3 or 4 seasons, and then joined Plymouth in 2016-19, where he went on to play over 128 games, should I say. But names that spring to mind, and one that fans would have enjoyed his little cameo in the Premier League season, was Jason Puncheon, now playing for Cypriot side Paphos. Again, he's one of those players who scored in all 4 divisions of the English pyramid, should we say, the top 4, when he scored against Everton on his debut at Goodison. So what a player he was for Blackpool.
Oh, he was. I really liked Jason Puncheon, and that when I remember rightly, Everton, he got substituted towards the end, and I think we were still in the game at that point, and I was so frustrated that we took him off, and I think we put a defender on, and I think we just invited pressure and ended up conceding more goals and losing the game. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed when we didn't sign him at the end of the season. Actually, I thought he would be just the type of player that we should have been looking for, because he was a young lad and he had a future. You could see he had a future, and he wasn't wanted. Was it Southampton at the time? Was it where?
Yeah, Southampton. Yeah,
Southampton. Bizarrely, I think we're in Division 1. Didn't want him. I think he maybe had some attitude issues. I don't know. But
yeah, another player, one that great servant for Blackpool was Craig Cathcart. One you didn't think actually played for them. I'll call you out on that one, but he was loaned to Plymouth from Manchester United for the 08-09 season, and obviously joined Blackpool for the Premier League, where he spent 4 years, 112 matches, scoring 3 goals, one against his former side, and that could have been a famous evening on the Fylde Coast if Blackpool had got that penalty in the second half. But again, another great servant for the club, and one that when you look back should have been a player that Blackpool cashed in at the time.
Cashed in or tried to keep. I mean,
keep him, yeah.
I mean, he went away on a free, didn't he? And then he's had a fantastic career in the Premier League, mainly with Watford. And the players that we let slip through our hands during that period was just criminal, really. I think the other one I remembered, which actually was he played up front for us when I first started watching Blackpool in the late 70s, was Tony Kello. And just for the younger viewers, Tony Kello, we bought it. Bear in mind, this is 1978. We bought him for 125 grand. And which is, I mean, I don't know what that is in today's money, but I would think it must be heading towards £1 million. He played for us for a couple of seasons. Tragically, he died quite early, age 58, but he spent most of his career down in the southwest. I think he played for Exeter and Plymouth and lived down there. But I have quite fond memories of him. He got 23 goals for us in 57 appearances before he went back to Exeter. I think we may well have been rather flush in spending some of the money we got for Mickey Walsh after we sold him to Everton. But again, somebody perhaps went more regularly in that period might remember the specifics. But it seems, I mean, until we got Malkin, I think that's probably the most we will have paid for a player. So I think that then we had Malkin, then we had Adam, that suddenly jumped up to $500,000 for Adam. But I would probably say it was our second highest signing until Adam joined us in 2009, 2010. So that's not bad having that type of record over a 30-year period.
No, we just had some news come in that Craig Cathcart scored the first goal of the 2020-21 season. Obviously, Watford playing tonight in the Championship. So good timing on us, on our behalf, speaking about him then. But yeah, great players who played for both teams. And just finally, we're going to come on to just what do Blackpool need now if they're going to be a real thorn or real side in the League One campaign? Is it defenders? They seem to have plenty of attacking options, don't they?
I think so. I think you look at the side, and that's where it obviously for me needs strengthening. I think most teams that have a successful season are built on the strength at the back, aren't they? They don't concede goals when they're under pressure, and I'm just a little bit concerned that we haven't quite got as much as we need there yet. And a few of the noises coming from Critchley and from outside the club suggest that there may still be some business to do there, and hopefully we're going to invest wisely. And I think that just could be the icing on the cake in relation to what is hopefully going to be a very successful season for Blackpool.
Do you think they need another striker? Obviously, we've got kind of Hamilton, but your main ones, Jerry Yates. Do you think that they maybe go into the loan market and bring someone in just to be a backup for Yates up top?
I think we're going to see something, because at the end of the day, we haven't seen any loans come in yet, and we're going to be able to use some. And I'm sure Critchley has plans to raid Anfield or other clubs, because obviously he'll probably have the best book on under 23 players going, won't he? And I'm sure he's going to use that to his advantage. He's going to use his connections to his advantage. So I'd be very, very surprised if I actually think we could end up getting at least one midfielder on loan. Hopefully like a Dewsbury Hall type, and I think we're going to get a centre back on loan, and I still think there's maybe a right back and even a left back in there as well.
Yeah, exciting times. Obviously Premier League season starts soon, but the window starts late, so I'm sure Premier League teams and Championship teams will be kind of leaving it to the last minute for sending players out on loan. And one he talked about there was that the young Arsenal, I've got Everton in my head. A young Arsenal defender, Daniel Bullard, I think that's how you pronounce his name. 20-year-old defender. Doesn't surprise that he played one game for Swindon Town, does it?
Well, yeah. When I heard that stat, I was a bit concerned. But when you actually look at it, he joined them in August, and he got injured in his first game or after his first game, and he only played the one game for them. But on his Twitter feed, there's a bit of a montage of his involvement in that game. A lot of ball winning headers, a lot of good block challenges, and then quite a few examples of him getting hold of the ball and then playing it into feet. And I think that's what Critchley wants. Critchley wants a ball, and I believe he can also play a defensive midfield role as well. So Critchley wants ball players, and he wants ball players right the way through the team. So he seems to fit the bill. He's a big unit. Yes, he's only 20, but he's 21 next week, I think. We could be getting hold of a really, really good player, and we could get a fantastic season out of him. He's played for Northern Ireland, I think, in their Nation League games over the course of the last 7 days. Obviously, we're not knowing that he was potentially linked to us. I haven't watched those. The interesting thing is that I picked up was he only follows 58 people on Twitter, and he's following Blackpool. And he's just started following Blackpool. So I think that tells you something. So he must think that there's at least some chance of him coming here. I still would like to see us get like an Everett-style player, somebody with a little bit more experience, but not necessarily at his expense. I think he sounds just what we want. A young lad who's, had X number of years in an academy, who now needs to be playing on a regular basis. And hopefully we've got a little bit of a diamond that we can polish up for Arsenal.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see if that transfer comes through in the upcoming days, or maybe ahead of tomorrow. But I'm sure Neil Critchley has his side set to go and get all 3 points away at Plymouth. But that's going to be enough for us. We're just hitting the kind of 50-minute mark. And again, a huge thanks to all of our guests, Josh, the Plymouth fan, Tim, yourself as well. It's been great to have you all on. And it's also been great to have all you leaving comments and sharing your stories with us as well. And we hope that continues as the season goes along. But if you're not a supporter, if you're not a follower, or you've not subscribed to any of the Seasiders podcast channels yet on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, make sure you like, subscribe, and there's plenty of content going out there. And like they said, this is going to be a regular feature every Friday evening at 8 o'clock. So we'll leave it there. And like we said, Blackpool start of their season tomorrow away at Plymouth. Can they go and pick up 3 points on the road? We'll have to wait and see, but I'm sure they will do. And it's going to be an exciting season for the Tangerines. See you next week.
Yeah!